Chapter 52, The Shuffler, please turn over your cards. Logan held the deck in front of him and threw it straight into the middle of the table. All of them were black cards with 3 kings and a pair of aces, very big cards. Serafina looked at his cards, took a fearful breath, and her hands trembled slightly. Logan took them all in and smiled. Miss Beaumont, it's okay, there's still a second game. She didn't answer, and steadily opened the cards in her hand. A pair of kings and 3 aces were all black cards. A dangerous win. Logan was stunned, he didn't expect this small probability to appear. When he held the 5 cards in his hand, he knew very well that the situation of having a card bigger than his still existed, but he had studied gambling for so many years, and he knew probability better than anyone else. Drawing 5 cards out of more than 300 cards, they were basically all random nonsense cards. The probability of randomly drawing a good card was very small. He accidentally drew 3K2A, which was already an extremely good card that could only appear in a TV series, and had a very small probability. Who would have thought that Serafina would randomly draw 2K3A? Her luck was really. What day is it today? But he had been gambling for so many years, his psychological quality was not mediocre. Losing the first game and changing his luck was a very normal thing, so he did not panic. The second time Serafina could not be so lucky, after all she was just a rookie, not experienced enough to stand in front of him. Logan was like a graceful loser, he said politely, "Congratulations, we will play the second game in 5 minutes." Serafina stood up, nodded slightly, did not say much, and left the table with a cold face. When she turned around, she was a little dizzy, feeling like she couldn't breathe. When she walked towards Harrison, her steps were a bit chaotic, almost running towards him. He smiled at her, held her slightly cold hand, gently rubbed it, tense. She softly said her beautiful eyes sparkled with stars, her cheeks were red, her voice was excited, "But I won 6% okay." "Yeah, I see. You're great." He held her hand and encouraged her in a low voice. But he couldn't help but feel worried. After all, this was her first time gambling, although she did very well, almost showing no emotion, but just a little bit of exposure was enough for the experienced gambler Logan to see through. Whether or not she would succeed often depended on that small detail. The type of consecutive good cards was rare anyway. At that time, they would probably have to accumulate points. At that time, it would be a psychological war, whoever could scare the opponent would win. But Serafina, if the next hand was filled with bad cards, would she still be able to remain calm like this? At this moment, Jaden on the other side suddenly smiled, asking with a provocative scent. "Serafina Beaumont, are you still a virgin?" She turned her head to look at him, frowning uncomfortably. Jaden said immediately, "That's right. We didn't ask for anything last game, this game will take your first night, how about it?" Harrison's eyes darkened, his face gloomy, about to stand up. Serafina tried to hold him back, firmly shaking her head at him. If she did not agree to the conditions they said, then the conditions she had mentioned before would also be erased, and their bet would be changed to something else, not Smith Corporation shares. Furthermore, if these perverts were angered, they would most likely sell Smith Corporation shares to Beaumont's rivals. Harrison's hand felt like it was about to crush Serafina's hand. His eyes were as dark as an abyss, looking at her, calmly saying, "I will." Before he could finish speaking, her expression changed. Without hesitation she pulled her hand out of his, and resolutely stood up. She did not look at him, her voice was light, "I'm sorry." He also stood up. For some reason he had a bad feeling, he wanted to hold her small, weak hands, but she slowly avoided them, his hand only touching the air. His heart was empty, suddenly realizing that everything before was just an illusion. The insurmountable distance at this moment was reality. She still didn't look at him, just silently staring into space. Her expression was as blank as a lost child, but as unyielding as a steadfast warrior. It seemed like it still wouldn't work. She still couldn't entrust her fate to him. If she lost today, she would be taken away by Logan and Jaden. If she won today, she wouldn't be able to explain to Harrison her distrust of him. No matter what the outcome, the gap between them had already been drawn. "I'm sorry. she smiled softly. I'm sorry, I still have the habit of holding my fate in my own hands. I'm not used to it, and I can't hand my fate over to someone else. Her voice was as light as a feather, as gentle and soft as willow flowers, but it was like a sledgehammer hitting Harrison's heart. He could only watch helplessly as she resolutely left. He remembered that whenever she was with him, she was always innocent, lively, and lovely. There was a time when he thought that he had made her put down the burden and confusion in her heart, making her gradually forget that heavy responsibility. But now he discovered she was actually still a hedgehog. The Serafina of this moment was the real Serafina, lonely, tired, vigilant, suspicious, insecure, proud, resilient, tough, cruel. Relying on no one, trusting no one. Only now did he realize that from the beginning to the end, she had always been alone. Perhaps others could never enter her world. And he was indeed that other person. He looked at her shadowy figure in the light, unconsciously curving his lips into a smile. At this moment, his heart ached as if it was breaking. She walked to the gambling table. Just as she was about to sit down, someone grabbed her hand and stopped her. She smelled a familiar scent, and looked over in surprise to see Harrison pulling a chair and sitting down. Casino rules, once you're on the table, you can't get off. Her heart felt like it had been stabbed. She had just said she didn't want to entrust her fate to others. Did this man not understand human language? She breathed heavily as if threatening, her voice so small that only he could hear. Harrison, can't you hear? You don't need to worry about my business. What right do you have to interfere? I think our fates are already tied together. His voice was light, not looking at her at all. She was suddenly stunned, her mind instantly blank. No one had ever taken responsibility for her, no one had ever protected her, she had only held herself tightly. So when he made decisions for her like this, it was truly dictatorial. She felt very resentful, very jealous. But in her heart, a warm feeling of pity rose, so warm that her eyes ached. She gritted her teeth, trying not to blink, stubbornly looking at him, but he did not turn his head, coldly looking at his opponent. Jaden frowned, just as he wanted to speak. Logan opened his mouth first. Harrison Lancaster, do you want to play the second game instead of Serafina Beaumont? Harrison indifferently replied, not only that, I want to change the condition you just gave. Jaden frowned even tighter, wanting to open his mouth again, but in the end, Logan spoke first. Huh? This is so awkward, why should we listen to you? Compared to Logan's gentle and melodious tone, Harrison's voice was always calm. I will give you another condition that you are interested in. Oh? Logan gradually became more enthusiastic. Harrison glanced at Alex, who was standing behind him, as light as a passing wind, and said, I heard that your brother Mason really wants my right arm. I'll bet on this right arm. How about it? Serafina's eyes widened. Harrison, are you crazy? She rushed forward, her two hands tightly gripping the edge of the table, staring at him, her eyes red, gritting her teeth. I have no relationship with you. I really didn't ask you to take care of it for me. After hearing her say that, he finally slowly raised his head to look at her, his black eyes devoid of any light, deep as if wanting to drown others. This type of girl who would talk nonsense when she got nervous was truly, this type of girl who was clearly anxious and worried until her eyes were red, yet still tried to bare her fangs and claws at him was truly. She looked at his calm eyes, suddenly having nothing left to say. For some reason there was no more thought in her mind. Perhaps she should just follow him. If he had said that their fates were tied together, then she would leave it to him. Even if today's outcome was the worst, wouldn't there still be two people shouldering it together? No matter what, they wouldn't be alone anymore. The tears welling up in her eyes dissipated, she quietly found a nearby chair and sat down. Logan sat opposite, rubbing his chin and thinking for a while, realizing that he had fallen into Harrison's trap. Harrison's right hand and Serafina's first night, of course the latter made him happier. Besides, he didn't have the ability to cut off Harrison's right arm. But Harrison's words gave him a difficult question. Logan, do you value beauty and need a woman, or do you value the loyalty to help your brother vent his anger? If my brother wants your hand, then if you lose, I will give you to him. Harrison had no other opinion. What he cared about was that the other party had agreed to his conditions. this matter would have absolutely nothing to do with Serafina. Then let's begin, Logan said. The dealer finished arranging the cards, pushed them in front of Logan, waited for him to draw a card, then pushed them in front of Harrison, repeating until both of them had 2 cards in their hands. Then Logan glanced at them. Today was really strange, just like the first game. In his hand was the Black King of Spades. Logan, 1% of Smith Transportation. Harrison tapped his finger lightly on the table. His tone and expression were equally calm, according to 10% of Heiresses. Logan's eyebrows slightly raised. Cease was an equipment manufacturing company under Lancaster Transportation that Harrison had full authority over. Very promising. The next card was the Black King of Spades. Logan chuckled, his expression both patient and provocative. 2% of Smith Transportation. The duel between men and men was indeed full of challenges. Logan seemed to be pleased with Harrison, then saw him calmly, looked at the cards, and without thinking said, "Follow." 15% of Heiresses. Logan bowed his head and thought for a long time, then drew another card, another K. He had a vague premonition, this time it might be even more perfect than the last time. It seemed that this time the goddess of luck was on his side. He took the opportunity to glance at Serafina, who was sitting next to Harrison. She pursed her lips, her face pale. She almost didn't dare to look at his cards. She just sat stiffly on the chair, tensely looking at Harrison attentively. Her serious and worried expression was really adorable. Logan touched his chin in dissatisfaction. It was just a pity that he wasn't in her eyes. He felt a sense of loss, glanced at the man she was looking at and met Harrison's eyes, cold, pitch black, warning. That angry look seemed to say, he was peeking at his woman and was discovered by him. Logan thought, Harrison has a girlfriend? He doesn't have one. But looking at them, there seems to be something. How could she be willing to be Harrison's secret lover? What an idiot, she must suffer, what a waste of heaven's gift. It seems that he has to try to snatch her away. Logan put aside his wandering thoughts and smiled, according to 5% of Smith. Harrison looked at him coldly, and before he could finish speaking, he spoke, according to 25% of Heiresses. Doubts arose in Logan's heart. He drew the last card. After silently reading K countless times, he carefully flipped it over to take a look, and sure enough, it was a K. 5 Ks. Logan was overjoyed. He was sure to win. His chances of winning were even higher than the first game. Unless Harrison had 5 black aces of spades in his hand, otherwise, he would definitely die. But he absolutely could not have 5 aces. The probability of drawing 5 identical cards was extremely small. Today the heavens blessed him with good luck. Harrison would not have such good luck. With his intuition, it was definitely impossible. Follow. 7% of Smith Corporation. This was all the remaining shares of Smith Corporation in his hands. He looked at Harrison with certainty of victory. Unexpectedly he was still calm as a rock, indifferently spitting out a word, follow. Finally, he added with great spirit, 50% of Heiresses, plus 2% of Lancaster Transportation Corporation, but I want you to bet 20% of your Blake Corporation as well. Logan was stunned, still smiling, but his heart was covered in sweat for some reason. From beginning to end, Harrison sat opposite without any extra expression. He could not guess his mentality. Even though Logan occasionally deliberately revealed that his cards were very good, Harrison was as if he did not see it. He had heard that Harrison was extremely indifferent, but a man who had experienced hundreds of battles like him had never seen anyone who could still act as if nothing happened when facing assets worth tens of billions like that. Furthermore, he dared to bring 50% of Cease to the gambling table, even betting the shares of Lancaster Transportation. Could this man really be so lucky as to draw 5 black aces of spades? How could that be possible? In the gambling world, there was a saying, the person who could draw 5 black aces of spades was the son of the god of luck. He, Harrison Lancaster? The son of the god of luck? Logan snorted disdainfully, but his palms were sweaty. Could it be that Harrison was bluffing him? But he was a careful worker. How could he rashly place such a large bet? What was going on? The card shuffler asked, "Are you sure you won't back out?" Harrison coldly said, "No withdrawal." After saying that, he turned his head to Serafina. The little girl's face was pale, extremely tense and worried, looking at him. He looked at her for a long time, couldn't help but reach out to rub her frozen face, smiling. He put his hand down again, grabbed her clenched hand. Logan stared at this scene, then looked at the corner of Harrison's lips that contained a faint smile. The tension in his mind suddenly snapped. "I give up." Logan had never lost before, but today the baccarat god lost to the smart Andrew, and although he was clearly very lucky in that boring infinite bluff, he still lost to the amateur Serafina. He somewhat hated the arrangement of heaven. Today he drew such a good card, he could even go down in history as a legend that was often passed down by word of mouth. But his luck was good, his opponent's luck was even better. If he gave up, he would only lose 3.5% of the Smith group. If he didn't give up, the 5 black aces of spades in Harrison's hand would make him lose 7% of the Smith group and 20% of the Blake group. He couldn't take that risk. As soon as Logan finished speaking, the nerves that were as tense as a string in Serafina's head instantly snapped, her whole body went limp. Collapsing into Harrison's arms, her tears flowing onto his suit like a broken dam. He hugged her, his eyes gentle, patting her shoulder gently, softly saying, "It's okay, it's okay." Jaden angrily punched the wall, not saying a word, but Logan understood the rules of the casino very well. After all, he had won the shares of Smith Corporation through gambling, and he didn't regret losing. So he neatly and decisively took the document, stamped it, and handed it to Harrison. "Thank you." Harrison said a short sentence, took the document, gave it to Serafina, and helped her leave. She hugged the document bag tightly, and he hugged her tightly like he was holding a treasure, and left the room. The room was dead silent. Logan, who rarely smoked, also lit a cigarette and quietly pondered. Jaden beside him got angry. "What bluff? You also play this kind of luck-based gambling game? I think you're crazy. Why did you listen to that rotten brat?" Logan glanced at him indifferently. "I lost everything I won before. What are you angry about?" "No matter what, I lost properly, unlike you, who was threatened by someone else with that rape video." Jaden choked, his face red, he screamed, and kicked the chair over. He was so angry that he almost couldn't stand, staring at the pile of cards on the table, suddenly stepping forward. "I want to see." The child of the god of luck drew 5 black aces of spades. The angry voice suddenly stopped. Jaden's eyes widened in surprise, not daring to believe it anymore. Logan saw that he had turned to stone, raised his head. "What's wrong?" Jaden's hand trembled. He turned the 5 cards in his hand to show him. Logan was so surprised that his face froze. The cigarette in his hand fell, burning a small hole on the carpet. The other 5 cards, from left to right, were 3, 6, 7, 9, 6. Logan was petrified. He was fooled by these damn cards again. Jaden indignantly threw the cards on the table. The colorful cards flew all over the table. The waiter quietly cleaned the VIP room, pulled the curtains. Outside the window was a curtain of heavy rain and gusty wind. Jaden looked out the dark window and laughed. "The storm is here, and Clark wants to take this opportunity to clean up the house. This little island will turn into hell today. Tell me, do you want Lancaster to meet with misfortune?" Passing through the long corridor and passing through many doors, Serafina felt that this distance was so far. The carpet was even softer than when she entered. Perhaps because she was too nervous just now, her hands and feet were cold, and now that her consciousness returned, her whole body was burning hot. The world seemed to be spinning. The postmodern paintings on the wall had completely turned into abstraction. The colors were like a river flowing in the corridor in front of her. Her legs were as soft as jelly, unable to stand. Almost all her body weight was leaning on Harrison as she struggled to walk out. The last door opened. Harrison's bodyguards rushed out to greet her. Miles said, "The storm is coming, we have to leave now." His voice was buzzing as if it came from a very far away place. Serafina's eyes darkened, her body went limp, and she fell into Harrison's arms.